One of the most common questions guys ask with regards to texting is how long they should wait to text, and then how long should they wait to text back. So first of all, in terms of the first text, you should do that relatively soon, okay? Some guys say like, I'll wait like 4 or 5 days so I don't seem needy. I think that's total bullshit personally. Reason is this, at the moment when you've met the girl, you're fresh on her mind and you had a positive interaction with her. Again, you did have a good interaction because we told you how to do that and you're doing it, right? But you had a good positive interaction. That interaction is fresh in her mind and she has a very good association with you. She's even hoping that you'll text. 5 days later, a lot of shit's happened. She may have completely forgot you exist. You're not top of her mind. She may have met some other guy. She may even have slept with some other guy in the meantime if you wait too long, okay? So you don't want to wait it out. You want to strike while the iron is hot. Now, that said, if you got a girl's number like at night and you know that she can't meet up with you that night, there's not a lot of point in like texting more that night necessarily. You might wait till the next day or something like that in that context. Or for example, you get a girl's number in the daytime and you know she's about to go have dinner with her friends. You don't need to be like texting her during dinner necessarily if you're not going to meet up later that night, right? There's a reason why you didn't continue hanging out right then and there. It's because she's busy, okay? Or because you're busy. So understand and be smart about that. But in general, yeah, you want to follow up within at most probably 24 hours. Okay, you want to strike while the iron is hot. You want to strike while she still knows who you are. And in fact, a lot of times, if you can even like have a couple texts back and forth, just fooling around right there and then in the interaction itself, or sometimes if you can have, you know, she's not super busy, but you just can't hang out. If you do have a couple texts that same day just to establish that you're texting, even that can be good, okay? So sooner rather than later, but be smart about it. Be practical, but hit it sooner rather than later. Don't wait any 5 days, okay? Now, when you're talking about ongoing texts, how long should you wait? Well, it depends on a couple things. It depends on what you're trying to accomplish at that particular time with the text, and it depends on how receptive she seems. Okay, so for example, what a lot of guys fall into is this thing where like they send a text and it takes the girl like a day to text back, and then they text back in 1 minute. And then it takes the girl like 2 days to text back, and they text back in a minute, right? That's really bad. That makes you look super needy, super available, like you have nothing better to do, that sort of thing. So if she's like taking a long time between texts and barely getting back to you, you should probably wait a little bit between texts. At least like, I'd say maybe like 20 minutes, half an hour, something like that's a good amount. Or at the very least, if you just have to, at least wait like 5 minutes. Don't look like you're Mr. like sitting by your phone waiting for her text all the time, okay? That's important for just what you're generally conveying. But that said, don't be dumb about it the other way either. If she's getting back to you right away every time and you're waiting days, you're just letting the number go cold. So if you text and she gets right back to you, by all means at that time, like text her right back then and have an actual dialogue, have an actual conversation. In fact, if you have a few texts back and forth, that's a great opportunity a lot of times to just pick up the phone and call her, and then things are going really well. Because if you get the girl on the phone, you're golden. Okay, so calibrate to what she's giving you is what I'm really saying, okay? If it's a long time between her texts, don't be super needy and quick. If she's getting back to you right away, don't be Mr. like, I'm playing hard to get and I'll wait days and days when you could just get her on a date tonight. Okay, so be smart about it and understand the calibration, okay? You don't want to be needy, but again, the point is to have an interaction, build comfort, and get her on a date. And so taking too long doesn't achieve that. And taking too long makes it seem very like stilted and fake and like formal as opposed to friendly, which is the vibe you're really going for. Now, the one time when I do think you may want to wait longer between texts, even like a lot longer than she's giving you, is say, for example, you're traveling or out of town, or you know you won't be able to see her for a while for whatever reason. In that case, if she's really on board, but you can't make plans, there's not a whole lot more to be achieved. And so you may not want to text and text and text and text at that point. You may want to actually end the conversation first, which is the topic of our next video. I want you to repeat after me. Not every text requires a response. Again, not every text requires a response, okay? Understand this. There are a lot of times when you can achieve a lot more by not texting back than you can by texting back, okay? So for example, let's say you made tentative plans with a girl for a couple days off and she says, sounds great. You don't have to reply back and be like, sounds great, right? Leave it there. Leave it. Don't overdo it. Don't be overinvested. Not a big deal, okay? You've already achieved everything you're going to achieve in that moment. Texting more is just needy, try hard, shows you don't have a life, and gives you opportunities to fuck things up, okay? You don't need to do that. Another context is, say the girl's really into you, but you won't be able to hang out with her for days and days and days, and you also can't get her on the phone for whatever reason at this moment. A lot of times it's good to leave it that she texted last and you didn't text back. Because you know that feeling when the girl texts you, when you text the girl and you don't get a response and you're like, oh shit, what the hell? Did I do something wrong? Did I mess it up? And you get super invested in the girl and you start to fall more and more in love with her the longer she doesn't text you back. Girls are like that as well, except times 10. If they text you back and you don't respond, oh my God, they're gonna go crazy for you. They're gonna go, oh my God, does he not like me anymore? Did I mess it up? Was that a bad text? And they're gonna get more and more invested, and it's gonna make everything else you're doing so much easier, okay? So look for these chances. I mean, obviously, if you need to arrange details, or if a text genuinely does require a response, or you're having a really good back and forth conversation, you're achieving like a lot in terms of getting closer with the girl, by all means, keep texting. But if there's a situation where it can't go anywhere, it's already going really well, and you have an opportunity to leave it hanging and let her want you a bit, by all means do it, right? Now, I think a lot of guys, the reason they always want to respond is they're worried about if they leave it and she doesn't follow up more, what they're gonna send later, what little value offering thing they're gonna do. Don't worry about that. Trust yourself. Trust yourself that you have cool things going on in your life. Trust yourself that you can offer value. Also trust yourself that whatever you are gonna respond right now, you could always just respond the same thing 6 hours later and it would be totally fine. Remember, it's totally justifiable that you're busy having a life and you're not sitting by your phone, okay? So understand, one, you're not required to text back to everything, and two, there are a lot of situations where the best response you can possibly send is silence and let her wonder. So use it to your advantage. It's massively powerful. All right, I touched on this briefly in the last video, but I wanna actually really be explicit about it. There are times when there's no point in sending a text. Okay, there are times when there's no point in sending a text. And what I want you to think about here is every time you're sending a text, you should be able to explain afterwards if you were asked, what was the purpose? What did that text achieve? So maybe it was, we weren't talking, I wanted to restart the conversation. Or maybe it was she sent a shit test, so I passed the shit test. Or maybe it was, I'm trying to make plans, okay? But there are times when there is nothing that will be achieved by a text. So for example, you are texting back and forth, it's really good, and you said, hey, I gotta go, but da-da-da, and she goes, good night. At that point, texting good night or texting a follow-up, there is no purpose. She's already in bed, you're not meeting up with her that day. She already ended the conversation, it's already super positive. You texting, it cannot achieve anything. All it can achieve is making you look needy, possibly. Right? It might not ruin anything, but it's not achieving anything. It's not making the situation any better. So in those contexts, my philosophy with texting is less is more. Right? My philosophy with texting is if you were busy having the most amazing experience of your life, would you be texting back right now? Probably not. So any text you send in that like meaningless context, all it's saying to her is he's not having the most amazing experience of his life right now. That's it. Okay. And again, also, the more text you send and the more you just get convoluted, the more opportunity you have to make mistakes. The other side note on this, by the way, is don't plan ahead your text either. Okay. So a lot of times there's a situation where things are really good and there's no point in sending a text. But what guys will do is they'll send a text and be like, I'm going to send this. And then when she responds to that, then I'll leave it silent because then I'll really have her hooked. Right? And when guys get tricky like that, it always backfires. It always backfires. If it's good, let it be good enough, right? Because what happens a lot of times is like, oh, I'll just send this one more text to bait her into an answer, and then when she answers, I'll go silent, and then I'll really have her hooked. And then you send that text, and then she doesn't respond, you're like, oh, fuck. And then you're like back to square one, okay? Don't do it, right? Again, if there's nothing specific to be achieved by the text, don't send it. You can always send it later if you need to. The vibe in your text needs to be fun, okay? Understand this. It needs to be fun. It should be a situation where when she sees a text message from you come up, she's excited to read it, looking forward to read it, like a little bit like tense, nervous tension to read it. That's actually the best. If she has nervous tension to read your texts, that's the ideal scenario where she's like, oh God, what did he text, right? That's what you wanna have. In order for that to occur, you need to be teasing and instigating towards her. Most guys in text are way too nice, way too polite, and way too complimentary, okay? Every now and again, and maybe even more than every now and again, you need to give a girl a hard time. You know how we talked about the 4 types of tests and 4 types of text, and one of them is her giving you a shit test? Well, you need to give her shit tests too sometimes. Challenge her, tease her, give her a hard time. she's going to respond very, very positively to that. That's actually one of the best forms of communication to have in text, okay? If your text is all logical and bland, you won't have that one text where you ruin it, but you will gradually, slowly have the momentum and the fun of the texting go away, right? You will lose momentum. It'll get less fun with every progressive text. And she's going to be less positive in her responses. And normally if you're texting well, you go sort of up the text sequence from silence to shit test to logical questions to very positive. If you start being bland, you're going to start going backwards through the sequence. You'll be like, oh, it's positive. Oh, now it's logical. Oh, now she's giving you shit test. Oh, now she went silent, okay? You want to avoid that, all right? Think play to win rather than to not lose, and think about having it actually be a fun interaction you want to be a part of and she wants to be a part of. Now, it is important that you don't insult, okay? Teasing but not insulting. If you're insulting via text, you're very likely to get silence. You're very likely to fuck it up. Even more so than when you're talking to a girl live, because she can't see your facial expression, she can't hear your tone of voice and know that you're teasing. So number one, make sure that you're being flirty and playful, even giving her a shit test, but you're never actually insulting. It's always a positive vibe, and it's always under the assumption that you both like each other, but you can tease her and give her a hard time the same way you'd give to a girl you're already dating, the same way you would to your friends, okay? So it is positive. It is never fully negative and never insulting. The other thing, we'll have a whole section on emoticons, but understand that emoticons can be very helpful with this because it helps your text from being misread. Always think to yourself, is there a way this could be misread as very negative or very butthurt or very needy, right? If any of those are a possible reading of your text, be very careful about sending. In fact, probably don't send it. A lot of texts, though, that are teasing, you add an emoticon and show that you're teasing and you'll get away with it. Without the emoticon, it could very easily be misread or misinterpreted in a very bad way for you. So that can be useful as well. But understand, you do need to tease. You cannot go through text game by just being Mr. Logical all the time. Final point I want to make about getting a girl chasing and investing in text is social media is amazing. Okay, social media is your friend. There's a whole section later on social media. So look into that. I'm gonna tell you like what types of things to post, what social media to use, all that kind of stuff. But understand right now, just in a general sense, that social media is great and actually even a better form of communication a lot of times than text, because everything a girl sees that you texted her, you tried to get her to see. You overtly were saying, please look at this text I sent you. Whereas anything she sees in social media, she saw by accident. So any cool stuff she finds out about you is through this context of like not bragging, not try hard, no agenda. So social media can be great for getting a girl to chase. And if you have good Snapchat, good Instagram, good Facebook, and you can get the girl to be like entertained by it, intrigued by it, keep going back to it. Every single time she goes back to it without her asking you to, or without you asking her to, that's her investing. That's her getting more caught up in your life, right? We all know like those times when a girl has really good social media and we look in on it and we're like become like pseudo stalkers a little bit, that we get more and more invested in the girl. Same kind of thing. If she's stalking your Facebook, you know she wants to hang out with you, right? If she's stalking your Instagram or your Snapchat, that's a really good sign. So let her do it. So build up a social media presence that can allow for that, if at all possible.